Appreciate all you guys braving the cold weather this morning. Who's tired of the cold, man? I tell you, it's been a kind of a cold winter so far. I know most of the country has been hit with a lot of cold, and Florida, the place where we should be able to go to escape that, has actually had its share of cold as well. There was ice on my car this morning when I went to leave. It's tough. It's tough to get up on cold mornings.
Amen.
Isn't the bed so nice and warm and so inviting? It got me thinking about the cold mornings of our life, whether they're physically cold mornings or times when you just feel cold, whether spiritually, physically, mentally, you're just worn out. And I love the scriptures this morning. 3 great scriptures that are filled with cynicism, uncertainty, doubt. The first scripture that we read this morning, Samuel. Samuel, as a young child, is ministering to the Lord. He's working at the temple for Eli. And did you catch that? That Samuel didn't even know God. It said Samuel didn't even know him. And yet he was doing this. And even a worse statement was, it said, the word of the Lord was scarce during this time. Sounds like a pretty cold morning in Eli and Samuel's faith. And yet they pushed through. And in the New Testament, Paul's talking to the church in Corinth, and he's telling them, listen, I know that you want to do a lot of things. And remember that not everything you do is going to profit you. We make a lot of allowances. Well, this isn't that bad. I can do this. This is not that. But does it profit us?
Amen.
What are we doing? Are we pushing through? Are we working for the good that God has put before us? Or are we just settling because it's not that bad? It's technically still legal, or whatever the case may be. And of course, the gospel reading. That's the biggest statement of cynicism. Can any good thing come from Nazareth? I love that. This morning I want to invite you to see what good things can come from Nazareth. One day, Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson were on a camping trip. And after a good meal, they went to sleep. Some hours later, Holmes awoke and nudged his faithful friend. He said, Watson, look up. Tell me what you see. Watson replied, I see millions and millions of stars. Well, what does that tell you? Holmes asked. Watson pondered for a minute. He says, well, astronomically, it tells me that there are millions of galaxies and potentially billions of planets. Astrologically, I observe that Saturn is in Leo. Horologically, I deduce that time is approximately 3:15. Theologically, I can see that God is all-powerful and we are small and insignificant. Meteorologically, I suspect that we'll have a beautiful day tomorrow. Why? Watson said, what does it tell you? Holmes was silent for a moment and then he spoke. Watson, you idiot. You can see the stars because someone has stolen our tent. Perspective is everything. How many times have we looked at something from different angles and just can't seem to figure out the problem, solve the problem? Maybe you take a step back or you get a fresh opinion from someone else and suddenly the solution presents itself, right? This new year lies before us. And it's the perfect opportunity to have a fresh perspective on life, a new outlook, a new direction, a new dedication in life. And it's good to make those choices for ourselves instead of waiting for someone or something else to make it for us. Because many times in life, we will be faced with a potentially life-changing circumstance. Did anyone catch the news yesterday? Did anyone see what happened in Hawaii yesterday? This went out to everybody in Hawaii. Shannon Hampton is in Hawaii right now. Everybody got this emergency text. This was yesterday. Ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek shelter immediately. This is not a drill. Now, can you imagine if your alarm went off in the morning and this came up? This happened to everybody in the island of Hawaii yesterday. A ballistic missile threat inbound. Everyone woke up thinking that their day and maybe their life was about to become drastically different. Now, it ended up being a false alarm, fortunately. But come on. How do you mess up something like that?
Amen.
What button got pushed somewhere that sent out that text message to everybody in Hawaii? I mean, I was reading about people on Facebook that they were putting their kids in bicycle helmets and telling them to kneel in the bathtub in the bathroom.
Yeah.
How do you seek shelter from a ballistic missile? People spent time yesterday morning in Hawaii waiting for missiles to land. And life is this way, isn't it? We never really know what kind of ballistic missile will come to threaten our day. And you know what kind of missiles I'm talking about. Sickness, tragedy, death, divorce, loss of a job. The list can go on and on. Ballistic missiles don't just have to be fired from nuclear submarines off the coast. Ballistic missiles threaten to fall in our life every single day in forms of all different kinds of things. See, this is why our perspective on life is so important. We must always remember that God is in charge. He has everything under control, and every circumstance can have some good come from it.
Amen.
What good can possibly come from this circumstance? How many times have we thought or asked that question? What good can come from this? Fill in the blank. We've all been there. We've all had something happen where our initial response is, how can anything good come from this? In our text this morning, Philip's excited. And it's understandable. You see, he's met Jesus. And he wants to tell his friends about it. So he goes and he finds Nathanael, and he proclaims that he has found the one whom Moses wrote about. Okay, so this is a little bit of an understated passage in John. You have Philip running up to Nathanael. I found the Messiah. Can you understand why Philip's excited? Think about it. It's a pretty big deal. For generations, they've grown up talking and reading and studying and memorizing all the scriptures about this foretold Messiah. In fact, their entire religion hinged on this coming person that would rescue them, that would save them. And the timing is right. The society is in a place where it's ripe for someone to come and to save them. And all of a sudden, Philip meets Jesus, and he's convinced this is the guy. The guy that for generations, for centuries, his people have been talking about. So of course Philip's excited. Of course Philip wants to tell somebody. So he runs and he finds his friend Nathanael to tell him that Jesus is this guy that we've been reading about. Now, we don't know the expression that Nathanael has on his face when he responded, but I think it's safe to say that his response revealed somewhat of a cynical sneer. Nathanael's chilling out under the fig tree, laying back, feet probably kicked up, arms folded. Philip says, I've met the guy. It's Jesus of Nazareth. And what does Nathanael respond? Come on. Can any good thing come from Nazareth? What is Philip's answer? Come and see. Don't take my word for it. Come and see for yourself. You see, Christians today, we have the same problem, don't we? The church is full of those who are sure of themselves. We may get to the point where we believe very little of what we're told. We may sit back under the fig tree with a sneer of Nathanael and say, can any good thing come from going to church? Can any good thing come from participating in youth group or its activities? Can any good thing come from coming to Bible study or to prayer meeting? After all, I'm so tired, I'm probably just going to fall asleep anyway. You see, people come in and out of the doors of church every Sunday with a critical eye. Skepticism is not a modern virtue. Doubting Thomases have been around since the dawn of time. Then by nature, we don't want to be led. We want to lead. But in the church, it's imperative that we have followers. In fact, it's imperative for all of us to be followers. Nathanael learned this. He was skeptical at first, but he was transformed. He became a follower eventually Because Philip invited him. Let me ask you, what was it that Philip saw in Christ that moved him to follow? What stirred him so that he would invite his friend Nathanael? Come and see what? What did Philip see in Jesus of Nazareth? I think we're going to look at that this morning. Attempt to answer that question. What is there to come and see? What good can come from Nazareth? First, Philip asked Nathanael to come and see the souls redeemed. Now, the day before Andrew followed Jesus and invited Peter, then Philip invited Nathanael. There were 8 others who would become Jesus' inner circle, 12 in all, and it was just the beginning. Soon there were 70. Scriptures tell us that comprised an outer circle. The net of redemption that was cast was large even in those early days. Hundreds were soon following Jesus, and by the end of the century, 500,000. Today, souls are being redeemed in South America, Africa, at 10 times the rate of North America and Europe. The church's work is not done. In fact, it's exploding worldwide. But it was Andrew who first made the invitation to his brother and to Philip. And then Philip who made the invitation to Nathanael. They were watching as people began to place their lives in the hands of Jesus of Nazareth. They listened as Jesus spoke to people in a way that made them understand their lives better than they understood them themselves. They had seen souls redeemed just as they had seen their own redeemed. So when Philip asked Nathanael to come and see, he knew Jesus would and could redeem Nathanael as well. Come and see, he said. Just come by. That's all I ask. Check it out for yourself. See, I know that everyone here believes that God can redeem a soul. We talk about it, we sing about it, we pray for it each and every week. I know that you believe that. So, why don't we live like that? Why don't we live like Philip? Why don't we go out and invite someone to come and see that which we spend our time singing about, praying about, reading about? Invite people to Bible study. Invite them to worship. Invite them to a church activity or a party. See, I think the question is, do we believe in the work that is going on here? Do we believe that there are good people here? And a great family, and a great community, and great fellowship? If that's the case, then all I ask for all of us is that we invite people to come and see. Come and see for themselves. I forget who quoted this. I should have looked it up ahead of time, but there was a great quote about saying, as a Christian, it's not hard to get other people to see your faith, in so many words. He said, what you do is, it's not like you have to get them on fire for themselves. You just have to catch fire yourself, and they'll come and watch you burn. And that's really the case. If we believe and live the way that God has and is a big part of our life, then other people will watch that. Other people will catch that fire. Other people will see that. It goes back to the living your faith, not just preaching your faith.
That's right.
Come and see. Come and see what God can do for you. But we are living in a time where it's cold. We are living in a time where we're tired. We are living in a time where we may not know God or hear His voice that well. I mean, that happened. We just read about that. So what do? How do we get past that? Well, this is what this New Year's all about. Clean slate, a fresh start, to get involved. I think if we want other people to get involved and invite them to get involved, then it makes sense that we already should be involved. I encourage you this year, come to Wednesday nights. It's great. It's a great Bible study. Yeah, I know it's a big joke that we've been on John for 2 years. But I tell you what, ask anybody that comes, they can tell you a whole lot about John.
Amen.
The scripture that we're reading this morning, I remember this when we were talking about this 2 years ago out of John, because we go deep into John. And other scriptures too. We don't just stay on John. Genevieve always has something else she wants to bring to the table.
She does.
Get involved. Be involved. Invite others to come and see for themselves. I like the story of 2 robins that were sitting in a tree. I'm really hungry, said the first one. Me too, said the second. Let's fly down and find some lunch. Well, they flew to the ground and they found a nice plot of ground that had been recently plowed, and it had worms, all kinds of fresh worms, and they ate and ate and ate on all these fresh worms that were turned up until they could eat no more. Oh man, I'm so full. I don't think I can fly back up to the tree, said one robin. Me too, said the second. Let's just lay here and bask in the warm sun. Okay, said the first robin, so they plopped down, and they sat there, soaking up the sun, basking in it, and no sooner had they fallen asleep than a big, fat cat snuck up and gobbled them both. As the cat sat back, washing his face after the meal, he thought to himself, man, I just love Baskin Robbins. That was great. That was great. But there's a point. Will we be the kind of people who have eaten so much of God's good food that we just sit and bask? Or will we be proactive and invite others to this feast? Will we go out of our way to say to people, come and see? See, that's all I ask. Just come and see, and you will learn that something good can come from Nazareth. See, wouldn't it be wonderful if each of us, at least once a month, invited another human to come and see? Wouldn't it be wonderful if come and see actually became a natural part of our life and our relationships? Secondly, Philip asked Nathanael to come and see the lives transformed. Long before Frederick Buechner was a well-known Christian author and Presbyterian minister, as a young man he sat in the dead of winter in army fatigues somewhere near Anniston, Alabama, eating supper out of a mess kit. The infantry training battalion he had been assigned to was on bivouac. There was a cold drizzle of rain and everything was mud, and the sun had gone down. He was still hungry when he had finished, and he noticed that a man nearby had something left over that he was not going to eat. It was a turnip. So he asked if he could have it, and the man tossed it over to him. Frederick missed the catch, and the turnip fell to the ground. But he was so hungry, and he wanted it so badly that he picked it up and started eating it anyway, even though it was covered in mud. And it was at that moment he had a transforming moment in his life. And this is how he describes it. He said, as I ate it, he said, time deepened and slowed down again. With a lurch of heart that is still real to me still, I saw suddenly, almost as if beyond time altogether, that not only was the turnip good, but the mud was good too, and the drizzle and the cold were good, and even the army that I had dreaded being in for months was good. And he concluded, sitting there in the Alabama winter with my mouth full of cold turnip and mud, I could see at least for a moment how if you ever took truly to heart the ultimate goodness and joy of things, even at their bleakest, the need to praise someone or something for it would be so great that you might even have to go out and speak of it to the birds of the air. Quite a transformation. Quite a difference. See, Philip experienced this moment. A moment I like to call the muddy turnip moment. A moment with Jesus that transformed him, where joy flooded into his world and made him want to go out and speak to someone else. So he found Nathanael. But you can understand Nathanael's skepticism. I mean, look what Philip is asking him to believe. I have found the one that Moses wrote about in the law, and the prophets have foretold. Sounded a little fantastic for Nathanael. You almost can't fault him. In fact, Jesus doesn't fault him either. Jesus recognizes his doubt, and he helps him along. Look at the verse again, verse 47. Jesus saw Nathanael coming to him. Philip said, come and see. Nathanael said, well, whatever. I mean, I've got nothing better to do. So let's just go. I'll follow you. And he says, behold, and this is what Jesus said when he saw Nathanael, say, behold an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no deceit. And Nathanael said to him, how do you know me? And Jesus answered and said to him, before Philip called you, you were under the fig tree, and I saw you. Nathanael answered him, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. What? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Jesus, first and foremost, could have said, and you of little faith. I mean, in fact, He said that to other people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like an uncommon thing for Jesus to call out someone's lack of faith.
Yeah.
And Nathanael has a lack of faith and doesn't believe and doesn't think that anything good can come from Nazareth. And what does Jesus say to him? He says, "You're an outstanding young man. I saw you over there. You are an Israelite in whom there is no deceit, no facade, a straight shooter with upper management written all over you." And suddenly light breaks through to Nathanael, and he was transformed. "I saw you while you were under the fig tree before Philip called you," Jesus said. Think about that. What happened under the fig tree before Philip called him? He was sitting there in doubt. He was sitting there being skeptical. He was sitting there thinking that there's no point. Nothing good can come of this. He was questioning. He was doubting. He couldn't believe that any good could come from the situation. But Jesus is telling him in so many words, "I know your heart. I know what you were thinking. I know your fears. I know your doubts. I know what you're going through in your life. Come, let me show you that there's more to see than just that." Why did that in fact impact Nathanael so much? Because Jesus spoke to his heart. Jesus said, "I know what you're going through, but I'm there, and I'm here." And the truth is, the reason why we're all here today is because we felt Christ speak to our hearts and show us that there's something more than just what we've got going for us in our life. You know, ballistic missiles may be raining down at any moment in our life. But Jesus has told us, don't worry. I'm here. I'm with you. Jesus has his attention suddenly. Nathanael says, shaking in his sandals, "Rabbi," he says. And here Nathanael has had his muddy turnip moment. "Rabbi, you are the Son of God and the King of Israel." That wasn't to be the only moment. You see, there's more to come. Jesus said, "You believe because I told you that I saw you under a fig tree?" He's like, "Man, get ready." I'm like, "You're about to have your socks blown off even more."
Amen.
There's greater things to come. And there was. Over the next 3 years, how many greater things did they see Jesus do? I mean, golly, if we could just grasp God in his goodness and greatness in the minor things in our life. I mean, how much can God do through us and show us? Jesus was saying, "Come and see, Nathanael. That's all I ask. Just come and see. And you'll learn that something good does in fact come from Nazareth." See, and that's the third thing Philip asked Nathanael to come and see. Come and see the heavens opened. Come and see the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. Those are the words of Jesus to Nathanael. And as he and the other 11 disciples spent the next 3 years living and ministering with their master, they indeed saw the heavens open. When Jesus was baptized, the heavens were open. When Jesus was transfigured, they saw the heavens open. When the 5,000 were fed, the heavens opened and bread was multiplied, miracles upon miracles. When Lazarus was raised from the grave, the heavens were opened and a dead man walked again. When Jesus died, however, the heavens closed and grew silent, and a heavy stone stood in the way. Until a couple days later when the heavens opened again, and the stone was blown apart. When Jesus stood before the disciples, behind that locked door, they saw the heavens open and the Lord redeemed that day. And he has never stopped opening the heavens and redeeming people ever since. He will redeem all those we invite to come and see. This morning I want to close with the story of the man with 2 umbrellas. Dr. Gordon Taggerson was a Baptist pastor in Worcester, Massachusetts. He was crossing the Atlantic by ship many years ago. He noticed on several occasions a dark-skinned man sitting in a deck chair reading a Bible. One day, Dr. Taggerson sat down beside him and said, "Forgive my curiosity, but I'm a Baptist minister, and I noticed that you're a faithful Bible reader. I'd like to meet you." After introductions, the dark-skinned man said, "I am Filipino. I was born into a good Catholic home, and I was sent to the United States as a young man to study in one of your fine universities, intending to become a lawyer. On my first day on campus, a student dropped by to visit. He welcomed me and offered to help in any way he could. Then he asked me where I went to church, and I told him I was Catholic, and he explained that the Catholic church was a distance away. But he sat down and drew me a map to it. I thanked him, and he left. The following Sunday morning, it was raining. I decided just to skip church, but then there was a knock at my door. There stood my new friend, and he was holding 2 umbrellas. And he said that he worried that I might not be able to read his map. So he said he would escort me to the Catholic Church. I hurriedly dressed, thinking that all the while, what an unusually thoughtful person he was. I wondered what church he belonged to. As we walked along, I asked him about his church. He said that his church was just around the corner, so I suggested that we go to his church this Sunday and then mine the following Sunday. He agreed. Somehow, I felt so much at home in his church that I never got around to finding mine. After 4 years, I felt that God was leading me into ordained ministry rather than into law. I went to Drew University Seminary and was ordained as a Methodist minister. Then I returned to the Philippines to serve in the Methodist parish. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Valencius, Bishop Valencius, Bishop of the Methodist Church in the Philippines. You see, the hero of the story was not the bishop, right? Important as he was, the hero is really the anonymous young man with the 2 umbrellas.
Amen.
Whether they had ended up in the Methodist Church or the Catholic Church that morning, it didn't really matter. You see, go all the way back to the beginning of the Christian history, and you'll always find the guy with 2 umbrellas. You see, he's behind almost every Christian convert. That unarmed man or woman, unnamed, man or woman with 2 umbrellas. That person with a winsome faith who builds a bridge of friendship with another person. And across that bridge walks the living Christ and claims another eternal soul. We can be that person. We can be the guy with 2 umbrellas. We can be like Philip. We can be like Andrew. We can be like anyone that is excited for Christ and doesn't mind inviting others to come and see. Come and see. That's all I ask. Just come and see. Perhaps we'll all learn together that something good can indeed come from Nazareth. Amen.